Welcome to the TheDPost for All Season Sports Show. I'm Drew Rubenstein, back with Fred Wyans, and Fred, appreciate you joining us once again. And transfers in college basketball seems to be a hot topic here lately. It's a nationwide problem, but specifically with WVU, from the 2010 through the 2012 recruiting classes, 17 players Bob Huggins has signed, 12 of which didn't make it to their junior seasons for a variety of reasons, and obviously he's got the latest crop that are here and still in school, but still that's an alarming figure. That's well over 50%, and a lot of areas to kind of discuss. But to begin with, your era, did you ever think about transferring, and how many transfers did you know, how many transfers were there while you were at WVU?
Well, the closest that I ever came to thinking about transferring is I was also a baseball player. I'd played semi-pro baseball since I was 13, and I tried out for the Cleveland Indians and batted against Bob Feller and Garcia and Lemon and Herb Score, and got offered a contract. Mm-hmm. And back then, I could have gone to Glenville College or Fairmont, played football, and played professional baseball. So I thought about it, and we had such a great year and good team, and I thought about it and said, no, I'll just play baseball here at the university when I can, and didn't do it. So it was a time when nobody thought about going. Matter of fact, if you were to press me, I can't think of a single person.
Because it sounded like it was a different era. We were talking a little bit, and it sounded like maybe some of you even went back to the friendships that were developed, your days at Jackson's Mill and the football camps and things like that, and maybe that played a factor into it as well.
Well, I think it did. It was a different. They're so serious today in every sport, and I'll give you an example. You know, the baseball team. Well, Steve Herrick, I was in chemical engineering. I only played 1 year, and we were getting ready to play Pitt. We were in the old wrestling room underneath the stadium, and Herrick was speaking, and he had an unusual brogue, and he said, "Well, by golly," he said, "the basketball team beat Pitt. We're getting ready to play Pitt. Mm-hmm. The football team beat Pitt, and by golly," and I was behind him with a baseball bat, and he's sitting on the bench right there. And I came up behind him on that bench, and when he got to that part, I took the bat and I slammed it down right beside him and screamed at the top of my voice, "Let's kill those!" and I kept repeating, Friendly Panthers. And then ran into the room, and Harry jumped up off of that, and he says, "By golly, that's the spirit! That's the spirit!" Well, today they might have thrown the guy. They might have thrown me off the team, but. It was that kind of a spirit that we had, that people had a good time. So to this day, people still talk about that and what Herrick was thinking about. But Herrick thought I was serious, and he was. And today, those kids aren't very serious. I mean, they're too serious, in my opinion.
Well, and WVU's in a situation now where they've lost two of their better perimeter players. I mean, just taking it down to a very focused point here. They've lost Aaron Harris and Terry Henderson, their top two three-point shooters. The WVU's bringing in some new players. Bob Huggins seems to like the makeup, but I know this is a tough question, but does WVU have the plan in place to operate in this new system? Because there's no doubt that transfers are very much a part of the game. So I guess the next question is, what kind of plan do you put in place to succeed in it?
Well, there's two things that I know, and I've never been to practice, because you're not allowed to go to practices.
Right.
But at the practices, the things that I see is, number one, he's got kids diving on the hardwood floors. Now, I don't know about you, but if there's a worse burn that you can have, it's I don't know what it would be than getting a hardwood floor. I'm not diving on the floor. I'm not diving on the floor for Huggins or for Adolph Rupp or whomever. Now, if it's during the game, maybe I'll dive after the ball to get it, but I'm not diving in practice. I don't need to practice. It's like we had football practice one time, and Ed Shockey, we were getting ready to play Pitt, and he lined up the biggest, toughest guys at defensive end. And he said, all right, now I want you two guys to come in and hit me. And I'm the regular quarterback. There's not a second, third, or fourth string quarterback practicing out there. And he said, let's come in and really crack him. And I said, whoa, wait, hold on. Now, you see, first of all, if you'd have done that, you'd have been thrown out. That somebody would have sent you in, or maybe throwing you off the team, or throwing you off for a week, whatever.
Sure.
And I said, wait a second. I do not have to practice getting the hell knocked out of me. I know what that feels like. And Shockey said, Ed said, well, okay, come on in and grab him then. And I smiled and did that. Now, had he said, Fred, I said, they're coming in to hit you, then I probably would have gone along with what he would be. But I'm going to give him a shot.
Sure.
Before he, and so it was a different type of thing that you had. They don't have any sense of humor. Never had one single time in 4 years that I didn't enjoy the practice, that I didn't have a good time. Never had a single time where somebody called me a F-er or an MF-er, and ever. Because had they done that, or had they done it to me or the other people, we'd have probably had a fight out on the field with the coach. And now we might have left then because they might have been asked to leave. But the other thing was that we had 4-year scholarships.
Okay.
We didn't have 1 year or half a year scholarship. We had 4 years, and
you viewed it as a commitment to the school as much as
the
other way around?
Because I was in chemical engineering, so I had 23 hours one semester, and only practiced with the team one time a week. The rest of the time I was out there fooling around with you and I and the two girls, throwing the ball and just warming up and things like that.
Sure.
So we just didn't have that, and as I said, Coach Lewis wasn't scared of us.
Yeah.
But he selected guys that he knew that could do the job, and back then, coaching was partly to get you ready for life after athletics at WVU or any place else, and go into your regular job. And that's what he did. He let you play, let you do it. And today they don't trust the players because they're making $6 million, so they're gonna. You think they're going to let you or I call the plays? Right. Yeah, they're not going to. Right. Yeah.
No, that's a good point, and it is a different era, and it's fascinating just to listen to you and hear how it used to be, and probably some positives and negatives on both sides, but it is a new era that we've moved into.
Well, I'll tell you, we can do this, and I'll let you have 10 shots to my 1. You list all the negatives of doing what I just described to you versus the negatives that they have, in what they're doing now.
Okay. Well, if you're calling me out there, let's see here. I mean, I would say the negatives of that, I don't know if it's so much as a negative, but you certainly didn't have the same level of maybe the attendances, the TV viewing, the fan interest. Was it higher now than it was then?
Well, we didn't have, our stadium only held 30-some thousand versus now it holds 60-some thousand. Had we had 60-some thousand, I would guess that we would have had that place packed then, because people came. They could come to a football game and bring their kids and enjoy the game. They can't come to the game anymore. Because it costs too much money.
Right.
And
It is a double-edged sword because if you look at the money of what it means to universities and communities and states and cities, and there have been studies done on that end, the amount of money that athletics brings in, but with it, I'm not, there are a lot of pitfalls, and I think that's even a discussion that we can dive into later on. There's absolutely a lot there.
Yeah, and it's and your parents and your families went to every game,
Right.
away or home.
Mm-hmm.
Because the farthest game that we played, I think my senior year, was in Milwaukee. We played Marquette.
Okay.
And the families were all there for that one. They just traveled because most of the games were Pitt, Penn State,
Right.
VPI, VMI, and the Southern Conference back then was a great conference. It included Duke and North Carolina, all the teams that are ACC now.
You bring up a lot of questions, and I think that'll even take us into our next episode. And one thing that we wanted to mention to viewers is we are welcoming questions, and we're doing things a little bit differently here. And please feel free to email or call in your questions, and then Fred and I will discuss them in our next week's discussion. And you'll see that email address and phone number pop up on the screen here, and we'll also have reminders in the paper. But Fred, appreciate your time once again.
You're welcome.
And
Thanks.
we'll see you again next week.
Okay, I look forward to it. Thanks, Drew.